You're watching Long Beach Local News. Breaking news, community, politics, sports, entertainment in Long Beach, California.
Hello and welcome to our new Top Trends in Long Beach with myself, Yasmin Tamras. On Wednesdays, with Top Trends in Long Beach, we present to you topics that are trending on a national and local level, featuring special guests from Long Beach as part of an in-studio conversation. And so today we're starting off with a much heated discussion surrounding the abortion laws in states such as Alabama and Georgia. Yesterday, in front of City Hall, Mayor Robert Garcia, council members of District 2, 3, and 8, amongst activists, notable speakers, and organizations for pro-choice stood together for the hashtag Stop the Bans rally. One of the speakers is here with us today. So joining us today in studio, we have Maricela de Rivera. Thank you for joining us here today. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing really well. Thank you.
So I must mention, Maricela is the director and co-founder of Long Beach Breastfeeds and also sits on the board of directors for Long Beach Transit, as well as owner of Conscious Clean 562 and does a sales consultant for Norwex, which is part of Conscious 562, right?
Correct.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, because it feels like you have a lot to do with the community here in Long Beach. How did you start off, everything that you're involved with, and why?
Thank you for having me, and thank you for following up, first of all, on the very important action that Council took yesterday. I appreciate it. Well, I have always been an activist. My family in Boyle Heights growing up was always rallying and protesting and speaking up for the community. And so that's really what I learned. And as you can see from the kids who were playing at my feet while I spoke, that's how I'm raising my girls too. I am a mom. I am first and foremost a super devoted, loving, I'm a really good mom. And I think it's hard for women to say when we're good at something. So I want to say that's the first thing I do. I'm a mom. But I'm also a city commissioner, and I run a small business. And I am a wife, and my mom lives with us, so I also care for my older mother. I'm an active PTA member at my daughter's school. There's lots of components.
Wow, I mean, that's like a lot that you're having bearing on your shoulder, but you're definitely becoming an icon for your children. And I want to dive a little bit more into, because as you've mentioned, you were yesterday at the rally, you were speaking there as well. And with regards to being a co-founder and director of Long Beach Breastfeeds, what is that organization all about? Because it's highly fascinating, and to see how you got involved into the rally as well, what the connection there is.
Thank you. Long Beach Breastfeeds started July 2nd will be 7 years ago, and we started really to serve the city of Long Beach in a more equitable way with breastfeeding support. And so what that means is when I became a mom, I still had lots of very good friends, but they were working. And so I would take 2 buses and travel across the city from Alamitos Beach, where I lived at the time, to East Long Beach. And that's the only support that there was at the time, 1 La Leche League meeting a month. And now there are none, by the way. And so there are no La Leche League meetings anymore.
La Leche meetings?
La Leche League, yes.
La Leche League. Okay, tell us a little bit about what La Leche League, because I understand La Leche, but
yes.
So the milk, right?
Yes, the
okay.
Milk. La Leche League is a very old organization that provides peer-to-peer support, and they are wonderful. They were wonderful to me, and they operate. It started with a group of women in Chicago many years ago, I want to say the 60s, and they just started meeting up to talk about breastfeeding, because at the time it was even more subversive than it is today. It was still the age of formula is best for your baby, and your body cannot nourish your baby properly. And so La Leche League was formed. I went to La Leche League and benefited for many years, but it was once a month. And so I started Long Beach Breastfeeds with an online closed Facebook group. And Long Beach Breastfeeds eventually grew into in-person support groups, play dates, an annual event that my co-founders, Celine Milanum and Christine Gibson, really started. It was their baby. and it was an annual Latch and Link. And so we literally got together and we're just in community with other breastfeeding families. But also everybody latched their babies at one time. There was a designated time, and we would count how many babies were latched. So the thing is, the Surgeon General, not our current, but at one point the Surgeon General posted what the things that we need the most to have a successful breastfeeding culture and successful breastfeeding relationships. And one of those really key important missing pieces is peer-to-peer support. And it's not breastfeeding is not something we see enough. Birthing and parenting and all of those things are not things we see enough anymore. And so that's what we do. We just provide support so that people know they're not alone.
That's brilliant. I mean, so are you based in one location, or do people go out somewhere and get together, or how does that work? Because as you mentioned with La Leche League, it was like once a month, and
Right.
so far across town.
Yes.
How can people access Long Beach Breastfeeds?
Thank you for asking. So longbeachbreastfeeds.org is under construction right now, but we have a very active Facebook page and Instagram, and it's just simply Long Beach Breastfeeds or LB Breastfeeds on Instagram. And what we do is for the summer we take a break with in-person support groups, but we'll come back in the fall. And we have wonderful partners. I think because our model is about equity, and what I found, again, living in Alamitos Beach of Long Beach, was that all of the support was either in a medical facility, because Miller Children's and Women's Hospital, Memorial Medical Care here in Long Beach, had a fantastic breastfeeding clinic and staff. St. Mary Medical Center has a fantastic lactation consultant. But unless you're in those settings, that's it. And those are really for infants, right? Most people don't go back with their 6-month-olds who they're going to start solids with and want advice. That's not what they're for. And so we have partnered with the Department of Health and Human Services here in Long Beach. We have our own, we're very lucky. And also the two birthing hospitals I mentioned, St. Mary Medical Center and Miller Children and Women's Hospital. And also the LGBTQ Center of Long Beach is a huge supporter of Long Beach Breastfeeds. And so our model was equity. If everything was either based in a medical center where you needed to pay for it, or private care, which is often very expensive, and lactation consultants are deserving of their rates and I think are undervalued, so I'm not upset that they charge what they're worth. I think that they don't even charge what they're worth, frankly. But it's an issue of privilege when we're saying to people that breast is best, and what I prefer to say is every drop counts. And so when we tell people that they should breastfeed because it's better for their child and their own body, and then don't provide the support, we have a culture of guilt and shame. And that's not what we want. We want every person to feel comfortable with their experience. And so Long Beach Breastfeeds has groups in West Long Beach, North Long Beach, and Central Long Beach. There's no building. We partner with people. Council member Roberto Uranga, former council member Suja Lowenthal, current council member Janine Pierce, council member Rex Richardson. Lots of people are very supportive of Long Beach Breastfeeds, and they know that we're really serving their underserved communities.
That's a great job that you do that. So I
Thank
want to
you.
see how that really ties in with your involvement with yesterday's
Yes.
pro-choice rally. So just as a recap, this was in front of City Hall at 4 p.m. There was a rally with several speakers, and this was really about the city coming to a resolution which allows city managers to impose economic sanctions on these states such as Alabama and Georgia and any other states that will be adopting the abortion law. So you were there to speak. How did you get approached, and why?
Yes.
And also as a representative of Long Beach Breastfeeds, how does that tie in together?
Absolutely. A lot of people have asked, what's being banned in Long Beach? Nothing. Because we're fortunate. A lot of people have asked, why does this matter for Long Beach? A lot of people have asked, what does breastfeeding have to do with abortion bans? I feel like anytime, there's a lot of sayings excuse me, there's a lot of sayings that go with, anytime one person is harmed, we are all harmed. Until all people are free, none of us are free. All of those sentiments really speak to me. And I feel that breastfeeding is an equity issue. I feel like abortion access is an equity issue. And I feel like the larger umbrella is reproductive justice. I also, with the Long Beach Birth Workers Collective Long Beach Birth Workers of Color Collective, which was started by my dear friend Stevie Marino and wonderful, amazing birth worker Blanca Estela Diaz. They basically started a group because, like Long Beach Breastfeeds started a group to fill a need. Women of color and queer people and immigrants were being left behind in these conversations. And so when I think about reproductive justice in that big umbrella, with any time a woman or a trans man or any non-binary person wants to get pregnant, wants to not get pregnant, is pregnant and doesn't want it, is pregnant and wants culturally competent care, has the child and wants to breastfeed or wants milk sharing, because we also at Long Beach Breastfeeds have a lot of people who share their milk for free. And so it's this huge umbrella, and I think it all leads to equity. We're talking about states, Georgia, Alabama, that have big issues with inequity. And so when we're talking about limiting or restricting or simply outlawing abortion access, which is medical care, which is health care, which is reproductive freedom, what we're saying is you can't get it in this state, so only the people who can afford to cross the state lines, who can afford time off work, who can afford to travel, who can, all of those things, can get one.
Yeah.
That's an equity issue to me.
Right. So I want to know about what are some of the things that stood out to you. Just as you're touching upon this, I think it was Sarah Badi who had mentioned about 1 in 3 women within those states being within their reproductive state. So that means 25 million of these women are not having the access. So from the speeches that you had seen yesterday and the people that had attended, what stood out to you the most and why?
One of the things that I've heard her say before that I loved hearing was my dear friend Zoe Nicholson, who runs both Pacific Shore Now, Long Beach Suffrage 100. She's an Alice Paul educator. She's so many things. She's a true feminist. One of the things that she said was, I love women, all women everywhere. And really that's what I think this was about. Everybody knows that abortion is not restricted or limited or banned in Long Beach, but there are too many of our sisters across this country who are now facing that limitation of the American right to do what you want with your own body. And so what really stood out to me was that our council said, we are speaking up because we were not elected to serve them, but their elected officials are failing them, and by limiting their health care rights.
There you go. So you were then at City Hall inside when they were coming to the resolution, the verdict.
Yes.
So we're going to just quickly play a clip from the inside and then hop back into the conversation.
Good afternoon. Mayor Garcia and council members, I want to thank you so much. My name is Maricela de Rivera. I am many things, among them city commissioner. I am an activist in my community. I am a leader. I am also the founder and director of Long Beach Breastfeeds. I had the pleasure when I was a homeowner in the 2nd District to vote for Councilwoman Janine Pierce. I am eternally grateful that I got to vote for somebody who would bring something like this forward. And I am now a District 9 resident and got to vote for Rex Richardson, who is a co-sponsor, along with council members Susie Price and Al Austin. And I thank all 4 of you for being brave enough to put your political capital behind women, because I know that that's what this is. You know, we talk about labels, and we talk about who we are and the importance of that. I am a mother. I am a queer woman. I am a wife. I am also incredibly privileged to have made the choice to have 2 abortions. Unlike most people who don't feel the need to share their medical history, I do, because I am privileged, because I had the choice to continue my college education, to only give birth to the children that would come into a loving marriage fully and completely wanted and adored. I had the choice to finish my career and then leave my career at the city of Long Beach when I wanted to be a full-time parent. That is what feminism looks like. That is what reproductive freedom looks like, and that is what ultimately privilege looks like, because I'm a Southern Californian from a liberal family and a liberal place, and was able to ask my mom for a ride. I was able to pay cash because insurance did not pay for it. I was not ostracized by my community. I wasn't shamed. It wasn't in a dark room. And unlike my grandmother and my great-grandmother before me, I did not give birth to countless children because I had to. I am very grateful that I live in the city of Long Beach. I'm very grateful that you are doing this. And I'm grateful for the Long Beach Breastfeeds members who showed up today and the many, many hundreds who wanted to and can't. Long Beach Breastfeeds is about equity. It is about reproductive justice and freedom, from whether or not a person can get pregnant, whether or not they want to, how they birth, where they birth, and yes, also how we use our breasts and where we feed our babies. I'm very, very grateful to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, well, what was it like standing in front of the mayor and council members there and giving your speech?
You know, it's funny. As I stated there live, I'm a city commissioner, and so once a month I serve on the Long Beach Transit Board of Directors, and I have for 7.5 years now. And so once a month I sit up on the dais. I was the chair of the board for 2 years. Speaking in public is not new to me. It doesn't make me anxious. I'm fortunate in that way. And this isn't the first time I've spoken as a resident to our mayor, our wonderful mayor Robert Garcia, or our council members, or before him, our mayor Bob Foster. I've spoken both at the state legislature on different bills that are being proposed and whatnot. This was the first time, though, that I shared that I've had 2 abortions. To the people.
I was going to ask you about as well, because that's a very big statement to make in front of people.
Yes.
So what were the reactions, and how did you feel? Why did you feel comfortable to also share that?
Yes. You know, it's not something that I ever planned on telling people publicly. It's also not something that I've ever hidden or felt ashamed of. As I've mentioned, my girls knew, and I didn't prep them for this event yesterday. They've known for a very long time about what an abortion is and isn't, because there's a lot of misinformation, unscientific messages out there. And, but it's the first time, you know, I know Robert Garcia, I know Janine Pierce and Ella Austin and these wonderful people, and it's the first time I've told them. Simply because that's not something that you talk about, right? But I think it's important for people to know I am not traumatized by the abortions that I had. I am not harmed by them. My life is better because I was able to choose my destiny. And that is exactly what is people are trying to take away from women with the restriction of birth control and the restriction of abortion access. I am what happens when it goes right. You know, I was a foster kid. I come from a low-income community, and I lack a lot of privilege in a lot of ways. And so being in the place where I am now, a homeowner, financially stable, married to a loving man, wonderful, healthy kids, I felt like this is my job as a leader, because I know there are many women in Long Beach Breastfeeds who have helped, who have had abortions, some that I've driven. It's part of reproductive justice, and I needed to be able to say, this is something that people do. It doesn't make you, you know, whatever people think we look like, this is what we look like.
Well, then I guess, you know, my next question would be in that form of, like, creating that awareness of people like yourself as to the choices you make behind an abortion, because a lot of the times it is mentioned due to rape cases.
Right.
But what other things have you experienced, whether that be yourself or from other people, without even naming or saying the example, but like
course.
for the reasons of abortions out there that women endure?
You know, one of the things that always bothers me is when people say, you know, in cases of rape or incest, or you know, if the mother, if it's jeopardizing the mother's life, I think those should just go without saying. I don't think there should have to be a reason. The fetuses that were inside me, that were clumps of cells at the point where they were removed from my body, were not the results of rape, were not the results of incest or some horrible violence. They were simply accidents that would have derailed my life. Would I be a city commissioner? Would I have helped thousands of women through Long Beach Breastfeeds and been a birth worker? Would I have done all of the things that I've done? No. No, I wouldn't have. So, you know, I don't think that we need to talk about the reasons. I simply wasn't ready. It wasn't time. I didn't want to be a mom, and now I do.
And you have how many kids now?
Two beautiful, healthy girls.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's jump into another clip from the City Hall from Mayor Robert Garcia as he introduces everybody and his reasons.
Close this out. I just will add, I mentioned some of this I think earlier today, but I'll say that we should always under all circumstances stand with women and their ability to make every choice about their body. Every healthcare choice that they would like to make is their right and their right only. I think it's also important for the city to go on record and recognizing that abortion is healthcare, and that is part of a women's health care, is the ability to make those types of choices and be very clear and vocal about those when we can be. I want to thank especially Councilwoman Janine Pierce, who thoughtfully worked with our Planned Parenthood affiliate groups, as well as Zoe Nicholson and NOW and so many other groups that are involved in women's rights. I know our Long Beach Breastfeeding group as well. So I just want to thank the women's organizations within the city that are leading this fight. And like I said, as a male, as an ally that's a man, I'll again say to all the men that we have no business being involved in women's decisions about their body, and just mind your own business and stick to yourself. So, I strongly support this, and I want to thank the other council members as well that signed on.
Okay, well, so what were your thoughts about Mayor Robert Garcia? And he even pointed out Long Beach Breastfeeds as part of the speech. What were your thoughts about his position and his wording?
Oh, I love him. You know, I appreciated that he reiterated what he did. When we were outside of council chambers during the rally, he spoke, and he is always so, of course he's a wonderful speaker and eloquent, but he was really spectacularly on point. You know, outside he said the same thing. Men have no business commenting on, let alone making laws and rules about women's health care or bodies. And one of the things he said outside is, you know, like he said, inside we should mind our own business, but outside he said, it's really not that hard to do. And I just appreciated that sentiment. Also, John Erickson from Planned Parenthood, another man, spoke eloquently during council chambers about this issue. And I really appreciate, you know, people who say, I'm sorry we even have to talk about this. Not because it's shameful, not because there's anything wrong with it, but because this is, as Councilwoman Susie Price so eloquently said several times, this is settled law. We have a right to determine, you know, whether or not we want to be parents.
Okay. Yes. Well, we have another clip of Susie Price as she was in the council chambers, and so we're going to hit that mark as well so people can see what she had to say.
I want to thank Council Member Pierce for bringing this item forward. Obviously, it's a very timely item, and it's one that I think the City of Long Beach should take a strong stance in support of the item. I do not believe that we should be using city funds and public monies to support policies in other states that are taking steps backwards. Since 1973, the law has been settled and the law has been clear in allowing women choices. And we cannot allow for progress in states that are trying to take those choices away to continue to thrive. We have to stand firm as a community in supporting the right of women to choose how they want to care for their bodies, what choices make sense for them in their lives. It is their choice, it is their bodies, and we should, as a community and as a society, support that.
Okay, so she had mentioned about the abortion laws back in 1973, how that was set, and then having progress, but now it seems to be we're at a stage of regression. So what are your thoughts about those who are pro-life?
You know, I really feel like this is an individual choice, and I'm okay as somebody who disagrees, as somebody who, you know, has exercised my right to choose. I was very proud to hear Councilwoman Price say that you don't have to want one, you know, it's about choice, and that's exactly right. I understand that people genuinely believe it's wrong, and I'm willing to talk about that. You know, I've talked to friends about it who think that, you know, it's wrong to have an abortion. My feeling is, you're allowed to feel that way. That doesn't affect my health care. You know, there are people who think wearing contacts is wrong. I wear glasses not because I judge people who wear contacts. You know, I think that it's okay to have opinions about how other people choose to live their lives. I do not think it's okay to make laws about that.
I think this is something that Mayor Robert Garcia also touched upon with choice.
Yeah.
And then Janine Pierce, having put this forward, mentioning about the emotional turmoil that goes behind making the decision to go forth versus not even having the decision. So let's see what she also said at the council chambers. So, well, but as well for you, what did you think when you were inside there, for each of them having spoken outside versus inside?
I was, you know, I'm always very fond of Councilwoman Pierce and what she says on the dais.
Thank you again for sharing your stories. I grappled with the idea of sharing my story or not, but I had the privilege in Texas to go to Planned Parenthood when I was 12. My mom took me. And my life was not normal, obviously. If your mom's taking you to Planned Parenthood at 12. But I was thankful because I had an education around reproductive rights at an early age. And so I want to share, as many women did, as Roe versus Wade came up, that were in power, that I too have had an abortion, and that I want to make sure that everybody in the nation has access to their reproductive rights. I also wanted to say that I just got word that Way 31, ABC News in Huntsville, is watching and looking at what Long Beach is doing. And so I want to make sure that we send a message, not only in our vote tonight, but a clear message to the representatives in the state that doing right by all of your constituents, doing right by all of your residents is what you were elected to do. And that it is my hope that you give all your residents access to reproductive freedom, to health care, to choice, because that's what we are elected to do, and that's what this ban is trying to isolate women. So please do the right thing and hear us loud and clear. We will make sure that we continue to fight all the way till the end. I hope everyone will vote on this yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Okay, I will now go ahead and call the vote for the council. Please cast your votes.
Motion carries.
Great, excellent. Unanimous, congratulations.
Well, we'll sorry we cut you off there with
That's
the
okay.
clip.
That's okay.
So Janine Pierce also came out with the fact that she had had an abortion, and so it feels like a lot of emotions were in this room. And going back to what you were explaining as to the feelings and sentiments inside and what you had observed, elaborate a little bit about that and the motion having been passed 6-0.
Yes. As I was saying, I'm incredibly proud of Councilwoman Pierce and the things that she says when she's on the dais in support of the community, and not just her district residents, not just the City of Long Beach residents, but women. And she's also a proud and open LGBTQ supporter and immigrant ally, and so I really always am so grateful for her voice. Councilmember Austin also had wonderful words to say in the council chambers about, you know, the people who are born who weren't wanted, and the social safety nets that we don't have for them, and just the kind of life that brings. And so I was very proud of council last night. I was very proud that it was 6-0. I have to say I wasn't surprised.
Okay. That was my next question.
And really, I would have been surprised if it wasn't unanimous, because I believe in Long Beach City leaders. I believe that I am lucky, and unfortunately it's rare to have a truly representative council. My council member, Rex Richardson, was a co-sponsor. He wasn't at council last night, but I know, you know, he was a co-sponsor. I know he would have been another yes. And so I just know that the City of Long Beach is led by progressive leaders who are really thinking about their constituents, and that's too rare.
Okay, well, I mean, there has been a lot of backlash and a bit of confusion as well as to what the implications are of having this resolution as to the travel ban. What does that mean exactly, the economic sanctions? What are the logistics behind it? And what are the implications for the city as well as those states that are going to be affected by it?
You know, I am, of course, not an expert in local government, but I did used to work for the city, and so I know that this will affect things like conferences and travel for those reasons. So let's say there's, you know, I was in public affairs when I worked here. So if there was some sort of conference where, you know, a public affairs folks were getting together and strategizing, or media trainings or things of that nature, we as a city will not pay for city staff to go. We will not spend our dollars in those states. And really what that means is that, as Stacey Abrams said and asked for people to not have travel bans, to not put economic sanctions on her state, I have, you know, genuine sadness for the people that impacts, because I know that it impacts people. But when people say there are people who work here, there are real lives, boycotting and speaking with our money is what we have come to in this country. It's the way that we've always expressed our power and our opinions outside of the ballot box. You know, we get to spend our money with the people who represent our values, and these states currently do not. Okay.
So what kind of message do you think the City of Long Beach is sending out? Because it is making waves, just as other cities are. LA has already as well imposed those travel bans. So overall, what do you think?
I think the City of Long Beach, I think the City of West Hollywood, I think, you know, any city in any state that does this, any state that has these travel bans, I hope the message that's received is the one that says, we stand with women. So even if it's inconvenient to be on the side of women and reproductive freedom, which are American values, it is an American value to uphold freedom above all else. And bodily autonomy is freedom. When we try and control other people, we have to say no, absolutely not, even when it's inconvenient. Like I said, we won't go to conferences anymore in those states. There might be a really good conference somebody wants to go to. That's going to be the part of it that hurts for us too.
So as a final, what do you ultimately want the public to take away from the message that Long Beach is sending and has really come to the resolution. So any final thoughts and sentiments, since there is a lot of backlash?
Yeah. I would say that the city of Long Beach is incredibly good with Mayor Garcia's leadership, with our current council, and again, they really represent the city and they look like the city. And I think what I would say is that we live intersectionality. We live the immigrant experience, the female experience, the trans experience, the queer experience. We are a city that is a beautiful, diverse city, and we really value all of those sectors of our population.
Okay. Well, we thank you so much for joining us here
you.
today. Do you have any current projects that you're working on or upcoming projects that you would like to share?
Thank you so much for asking. Of course, you know, Long Beach Breastfeeds is always near and dear to my heart, and we will continue working towards equity and lactation, both for the queer community, women of color, and low-income folks. But also, Long Beach is celebrating the centennial of the women's right to vote. So we are a thoroughly feminist city. And Zoe Nicholson, my dear friend, is heading up the lbsuffrage100.com. There will be events, there will be many things you can buy, the sashes the suffragettes used to wear. And so I encourage people to really get involved in women having the right to vote for 100 years. What a beautiful thing.
Yes. And so where can people find you online, on social media, any handles?
Yes. So again, lbsuffrage100.com is for those centennial celebration events that will be coming. longbeachbreastfeeds.org is under construction, but will be up and running very soon. Sometime this summer, we will have our 7th anniversary celebration this summer. Also on Facebook, Long Beach Breastfeeds, and on Instagram, LB Breastfeeds.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much again for joining us here today.
Absolutely.
Best of luck with all the upcoming projects
Thank
and the
you so
events as
much.
well. We'll be sure to look out.
Thank you.
So that's it for today on Top Trends in Long Beach with myself, Yasmin Tamras. If there is a hot topic in Long Beach you'd like us to discuss with the panel, please get in touch by email lblnteam@gmail.com. And do check out our website to stay up to date with your local news on longbeachlocalnews.com, and follow us on social media at Long Beach Local News. Don't forget to hit those notification buttons to know when we go live and for any news updates. I appreciate you for joining us here today. I'm Yasmin Tanres, and see you soon.